Hey guys, welcome. It's been quite a while since I did a video on trucking, and I've had a few requests for how to set up a trucking company. So I thought I'd put something together here, just kind of general. And, there's going to be some research you're going to have to do from your end, but I'm hoping that the points that I'm going to give you here are going to lead you in the right direction and give you the tools so you'll be able to go out and get this information on your own and get things set up. And then also at the end of this video, I'm going to have a section in here where I actually go over a couple of loads. We're going to look at some of the numbers and see how everything breaks down. So when we speak of a trucking company, we're talking about a carrier, not a broker. So there is a difference, and we'll take a look at that here in a moment. I just got some points, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. The cool thing about a trucking company is you don't even need to own a truck to operate one. It's a great business if you want to work from home. If you're small and you want to just have a couple of trucks on the road, you can make a really good living. And like I said, we're going to take a look at some of the numbers here coming up at the end of the video. And I also want to mention to you as well, I've left my email address in the last slide of this presentation, because if you have any questions or you need some help with something, I even may be looking at building some partnerships with some people who may have trucks, or you don't have to have a truck, whatever, but just reach out to me and we'll see what we can do. So let's get down to business here and take a look. So this is from the FMCSA website. So a motor carrier transports passengers or property for compensation. So this is what we're talking about up here. This is what we want to set up. A broker, on the other hand, is a company that arranges the transportation. So they have a client, let's call that client a shipper, and the shipper needs to move their materials from point A to point B. And the broker doesn't have any trucks, but they basically set up the logistics of it. So they would hire a company like ours, a motor carrier, to transport these goods. And then there's another category called a freight forwarder, which basically is kind of the same as a carrier, but they do some extra stuff. Like they may have a cross dock, it's called, where shipments are brought in and then they separate these 20 boxes from these 20 boxes, and then part of the load goes to another location, and then another truck comes and picks up the first 20 boxes, and they handle it like that. There's some other things that they do, but we're not looking at either of these two here, these next two. We're looking at the top one. Just an overview of what this is again. So we're not setting up a brokerage. We're going to be hiring contract drivers, okay, or what we call owner-operators. So these are people or companies that have one truck or possibly 10. They can have many trucks. And then what we do is we lease those drivers or those trucks onto our company. And then they operate for our company. And then it's our job to get them loads, dispatch them, and make sure the load gets picked up, gets delivered, and then from there we take compensation. We take a percentage from each load. And the owner-operators are aware of this, and it's worth it for them because they have virtually no paperwork to do. Paperwork in this business is huge, and so our job is to take that headache away from them. So they don't have to find loads, they don't have to negotiate price on loads. We do that for them. And of course, we want to get the best rate we can. That's the deal with an owner-operator. A company driver is somebody that we would actually hire. Okay, so it's going to be the difference between, in the US anyway, between a W-2 and a 1099. So a company driver is actually going to be an employee, and you're going to set up some kind of compensation for them where get paid by the mile or paid by the hour, get paid a salary. It's really up to you and your company and how you set that up. And I can give you some advice on what I think you should do, but again, it depends on your situation. The company driver also is going to need equipment. So you're going to have to own a truck and a trailer, be able to supply that driver with the tools. The deal with the contract drivers is they own their own truck. Now, many usually don't own a trailer, so as the carrier company, we're going to have to make arrangements to get trailers for them. If it's dry van trailers, flatbeds, whatever it is. It's really important as well that you have great relationships with shippers or brokers. And I understand that there's load boards out there, and but that's really quite a headache to deal with. It's nice if you're stuck and you need to get a load, a backhaul or something like that. But after doing this for a few years, I've been fortunate enough to be able to develop some relationships with some brokers around the country and be able to get great loads for the operators. So that's key. The other thing that I should point out is that many reputable brokers, we'll call them bigger ones, require that you have a certain amount of time under your belt. So they won't work with your company, for example, for, I've seen 3 months, 6 months, even up to 1 year. So you have to operate for a whole year and show them that you can, sustain your business for a year before they'll even give you a load. Now, I have some workarounds for that, and basically it's because of contacts, but there are ways to get around that. As I mentioned before, part of our job is going to be dispatch, and so we're going to, say, have our truck located in Atlanta, and we need to move that truck to another location, so we have to find a load coming out of Atlanta going to point B, wherever that is, and we want to get the most bang for the buck. So we want to get the most dollars per mile, but at the same time, the location we're going into, we want to make sure that we can also get a load out of there for good money, or we got to make sure that we get compensated going in really well in order to get the backhaul to make sense. What I'm getting at is it doesn't make sense to go from Atlanta to, for example, Miami for $1.50, because out of Miami you're probably going to get something for like 80 cents or $1 currently. So it's just knowing the markets, right? You got to be very careful. And that's something I can help you out with as well. This is always changing, but I can kind of give you some pointers on that. We also need to make sure that our payments are timely to our operators, and if we have a company driver. Most brokerages are not going to pay you weekly. They're going to pay, 30 days out, whatever it is, which is normal in business. But we need cash flow, right? We need to be able to pay our drivers that week, or the end of that week sort of idea. These guys want to get paid every week. They have bills, they have lease payments, they have things to worry about. So that's where factoring comes in, and I can guide you there as well a little bit if you want to reach out to me. There's good factoring companies, but I would say most of them are not so hot, and what I mean by that is they're not scammy, but they promise you the world and then they really don't deliver. So they don't steal your money or anything like that, but they promise you all these things, and then when it comes down to it, you get the money, but there's all these fees taken out. And so again, there are some workarounds to factoring, and I can kind of give you some pointers on that as well. It would just be too much to go into, and it depends on your situation, right? It depends on what you're doing with your company. If you're a regional company or you're going over the road, national, if you're going up into Canada or down into Mexico, everything is different depending on what you want to do. One of the things that is going to be required before you get approved by the government to get your MC number is that you have insurance. And insurance is going to be paid usually in a yearly contract, and they're going to make you put some kind of deposit down, and that can be anything. It's usually like a couple $1,000, and that'll get you one truck on the road, and then from there what you're going to be able to do is get that money back slowly from each load, and then ongoing the insurance is going to be paid from each load or from the operator. Okay, so your insurance obviously is covered. You're not stuck paying insurance out of your pocket. It's just the upfront insurance that you need to worry about. And so each truck that you add, you're going to create a slot. So it's going to be, let's say it's $3,000. You put $3,000 down, you now have a slot for a year. So if you have a driver, an owner operator, I should say, that works for you for a couple of months, and then they decide for some reason that they want to leave, or their truck breaks down or whatever, you can put another driver in that slot. You don't have to put the $3,000 down again. And then if you open up a new slot, you got to put down the $3,000. Let's keep going here. So I've got two screens here, and some of these are going to really overlap. So we're going to talk about owner-operators, but a lot of this stuff is going to be the same for company drivers, okay? So as I was talking about, you're going to want to decide if you want to be an over-the-road company or regional, or you can be both. Now, I would suggest over-the-road because regional is a little bit harder to sustain and keep the wheels moving. I always say if those wheels are not moving, you're not making any money. Now, there are some regional things where there's less than load, it's called, where you pick up half a trailer, then they go 200 miles, and they pick up another half of a trailer, so now they've got a full trailer, and they've got to make 6 stops throughout the state or whatever it is. And those loads can pay really, really well. However, if you calculate the time the truck is sitting, it may not end up being so good to your bottom line. It may have been better to get a longer haul and just keep the wheels moving. So those are things you're going to have to kind of look at. A lot of drivers love regional because they get to be home every night or every couple of days. My belief is that you want to find ambitious drivers who want to get out there and hit the road and make money, because the operators are going to make a ton of money, okay? And like I said, we're going to go over the numbers here in a bit, but if they're ambitious and they want to work, I mean, I know everybody likes to be home, but if they, just do it, go for, if they say, listen, I'm going to do this for a year, they can make crazy amount of money, okay? There's new regulations that just came out where hours of service for the truck and the driver need to be tracked electronically. And I think that actually comes into effect here coming up in April of 2018, full force. But right now, basically, everything's getting implemented, and you should really start using this. There's a few different service providers out there. Basically, what happens is you subscribe to a plan, you get this little dongle thing, it's like a little chip. You plug it into the truck, and then the driver enters their hours of service over some kind of a smartphone or tablet or what have you. They're usually cross-platform, so you can use, iPhone or Android, it doesn't really matter. Trailers. We mentioned before that most owner-operators don't own their own trailer, and probably the simplest thing to do to get going is just do dry van, so 53-foot, dry van trailers. You can rent these, and you may have to put a deposit down on each trailer. I don't know, I've seen anywhere from a few $100 to, up to $1,000. Then basically what you're going to do is get your truck from wherever that driver lives. Let's say they live in Texas, but your trailer yard where you're renting your trailers from is in Baltimore. So you got to figure out how to get that driver from Texas over to Baltimore without just, bobtailing or no trailer basically. And there are ways you can do that. There's companies that'll get you to pull their trailer. You can make money doing that as well. So there's some solutions for that. Fuel cards. You're going to need to have fuel cards, and they're going to be in your company's name, and you're going to give each one of your operators a fuel card. Some operators will prefer to pay for their own fuel, and then you don't have to deduct fuel from the load. But basically what happens is you give them a fuel card, and it has a line of credit on it, and they go and they get their fuel, and then at the end of each week when you do your statement, you basically deduct the fuel from the load. So you're just basically lending them the money to get fuel to deliver your freight, and then it gets deducted from the load at the end of the week or whenever you do your statement for that driver. We already talked about insurance. It's going to be the same deal for owner-operators or company drivers. You just got to get an insurance slot, I like to call it. I don't think it's technically called that, and insure the truck. Now I'll mention for those of you from Canada, there's a slightly different process in Canada that you actually have to plate the truck, I believe, and so you lease the truck, but you also plate the truck in your company's name. Here in the United States, you don't have to do that, and for any of you in Canada, I can help you out too. I've worked both in Canada and the US, so I've got kind of experience on both sides of the border. Safety. So you're going to have to put together some kind of safety manual, distribute these to your operators. Just so, I mean, these guys or gals are going to pretty much know what to do, right? They should, right? They've got a CDL. They should have been doing this for at least a couple of years. But it's good form to have something, and it covers your company as well. It shows that you have a safety department. You have even if it's just one person, if it's you have like some kind of a safety division. Before you get rolling with a new owner or company driver, they're going to have to take a medical, and you're going to have to make sure that they're not a drug user and all their stuff is good to go. There's different locations throughout the country that do these medicals. You can actually sign up for a program that will, monitor all this for you. Again, I can help you out with that if you need some, or you can just do some Google searching on that. And then there's this thing called Escrow, where companies like ours will take off money on the loads until a certain dollar amount is reached. So this is going to be the owner-operator's money. But the reason we do this is because, and for those of you who are owner-operators, I was an owner-operator, so don't take offense. But there's good and bad in every crowd, right? And I've seen things happen. This has happened to me personally, where a owner-operator will have a load on and they just decide, I don't want to do this anymore, and they leave your trailer in a Walmart parking lot somewhere, right? So this escrow is incentive for them to complete the load, and if they don't, for some reason, then you have money set aside to get somebody to go rescue that trailer, okay? That should not come out of your pocket, because remember that an owner-operator is their own business. They can decide to take the load, to not take the load, but once they decide to take the load, then it's their responsibility to make sure it gets through. And if for some reason, if it doesn't, then you want to make sure you've got some kind of insurance policy, so you're not scrambling to get money together to move a trailer. So you have a little bit of money set aside, and this escrow amount can range anywhere from, I've seen from like $1,000 all the way up to like $3,000. So it just really depends on what your situation is and what you're doing. All right, so for company drivers, the idea here is that we have our own equipment. So we have a truck, we have a trailer, we put the driver in the truck, and we say go. And you're an employee, so the company owns the equipment or leases the equipment, rents the equipment, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, but we're supplying the tools to do the job. They would be classed as an employee. Now there's some places that do them as subcontractors. I don't want to get into that. That's a really messy kind of area. And the way we've always done it is that they are an employee, so we do deductions and all that kind of stuff. The assets, again, is the equipment. I don't know why I have that there twice, but we'll leave it there. So we're talking about, the assets are the truck and the trailer. They belong to the company, and we supply those to the driver to use. Now, is there more money in doing it this way? Well, I would say yes, but we're going to look at some numbers here in a second. So before we talk too much about that, we'll look at the numbers, and then I'll let you decide. Again, I've got insurance listed here. We've already talked about that, so I won't go over it again, but it's the same setup. You have a truck, you got to insure it, and you're going to have to put some kind of deposit down in most cases. And safety, again, you're going to need to make sure that they understand that safety comes first before anything, because you want to have a clean safety record for your company. So we're going to take a look at the startup here. So how do we get this rolling? What do we do? We kind of have an idea of what we're going to do, but how do we actually set this up? So we got to form a company, okay? And the company, in my experience, can be formed anywhere. Anywhere. If you're in the United States, you could form it if you want to form it in Nevada, but you live in Florida, that's cool. There may be some kind of a tax advantage for doing that. So you do need a company. And like I said, that can be formed online. It's not a big process. You also need a logo, website, and some kind of application that's going to track your loads. Now, I've actually created an app for a couple of trucking companies. I do programming as well. That's actually kind of how I got back into this. I was building this application, and anyway, I won't get into too many details, and I'm not here to sell you an application or anything like that, guys. It's not even up for sale. So I'm just letting you know there are different tools out there. However, if you do need a website or something like that, let me know. I can help you out with that. But you need a presence online. You want to look professional. You don't want to be using Gmail, okay? You can, but when you go to a broker like C.H. Robinson, for example, they're kind of going to look at you like you're a chump if you say, well, it's, Sally@gmail.com. They're going to look at you like, what is this, some kind of fly-by-night thing? So you want to have a domain, a nice looking web page, and have a presence online, okay? You then need to register with the FMCSA. You need to set up a carrier MC number. So there is an application that you have to go through. It's pretty straight ahead. Take you probably about 20 minutes or something like that. There's a fee for doing it. I believe it's like $150. It takes, I believe, about 20 business days for the approval. Then once it's approved, it's in a pending status, and then it's pending for insurance. So once you then bind your insurance for one of your trucks or one of your owner operators, the insurance company will then submit that information to the FMCSA, and you will be good to go. I should mention, though, before that happens, you should be in the background working on getting your factoring set up, getting your brokers in order, getting things ready to roll, because this happens really fast. I mean, once you bind insurance, you want to get trucks rolling. You don't want to be sitting there now going, oh, geez, how am I going to pay these guys? You want to be able to get things moving fast. So we talked about insurance, location. Now, for insurance, there are differences in insurance based on where you're located. For example, out of the state of New York, it's really difficult to get insurance. At least we found it. If you are working in Texas, it's a lot easier. There's also companies that will not bind insurance in Texas, but they will if you're based in Florida. It's a little bit of a shopping game. So again, I've got some contacts. I can help you out there if you need any kind of assistance. But my point is not just about the insurance part of it, but you may have a company, say, based in New York, but because of your insurance or the insurance you're going to go with, you may want to have an office, say, in Florida. Now that sounds a bit weird, but what I mean by an office, it might just be a place to store your trucks if they break down, just a yard that you rent. And it's nothing shady. You just say to drivers, okay, if you're going to be off the road, I need you to park the trailer at this location. 99% of the time, the trucks are moving, right? And if the trucks are home with the driver or something, it's only like for a day or two, and then they're right back out on the road again. Finding operators, there's a few different methods to going about this. You want to find quality operators. You want to find guys and gals that have been doing this for a few years who are honest and straight up and are looking to work. If you get a call from somebody who's like, well, I don't want to go to here, and I don't want to do this, and I need to be home every weekend. If you're an over-the-road company, then that driver is not for you, okay? You just got to move on and say, sorry, I don't have those lanes available. I don't do regional. I'm sorry, but thank you for calling, and good luck with your search. Now, if you do have lanes for them to take over, then absolutely hire them. But starting out, I think it's better to go with operators who just want to roll, move, and make money. Okay? We talked about the trailers and how we rent those or lease those, and so I won't go over that again. Also, if you want to reach me, you can see throughout this presentation here, this particular slide, my email's been down here at the bottom, and this particular website, chesnoitz.com, this is my last name. It's more based around my coding and stuff. I teach programming as well, so it's not really related to trucking. But anyway, that's what chesnoitz.com is all about. But you can get me at that email address is all I'm trying to say. So just email me there if you have any questions or comments, or you want to start something up, whatever it is. Let me know, and we can swap phone numbers and chat. All right, so I've got a screen up here that shows the national average currently of dry van rates coming out of these different locations. And if you're a subscriber at any of these load boards. I prefer this DAT load board. It's probably the best one that I found, but there are other great ones. But anyway, so we see here that, for example, coming out of Atlanta, you're going to get an average of 240 per mile, and out of Chicago, 267. So you could do a run from, Atlanta to Chicago, Chicago back to Atlanta. You get the idea, right? And just keep doing that. So that's the benefit of having a few brokers in your pocket, having relationships, because they will find you these loads where if you're using load boards, you can find all kinds of stuff, but it's not always going to be the best pickings, because you may have to work with a broker that may be shady, or I've seen it where, the broker doesn't pay. You do this great load, you get a great rate per mile, but at the end of the day, they end up not paying. And so I would recommend really doing good solid background checks on any broker that you use. So let's dive in here and take a look at some actual loads and some numbers. So inside the app that I have, I've got a fake user here, Baba Booey. So we just did 2 loads over the week, so sort of week and a half, I guess this would take. And inside the actual application, we can enter things like, let's just take a look at one of the loads here. So you can see we've got the origin and destination. We can see that what I've done is we can break down, fuel. We can actually add, expenses here. So I can enter a transaction and they get listed here. And I've put fuel at $1,000. Now that's an overshoot, because we actually, at $2.99 a gallon, which this app calculates for us, we get the average fuel price. And we're looking at $7.42, okay? So I'm a bit high on the fuel, and we can see here that we've got our miles. Everything's all kind of broken down, what the owner's going to get after the expenses, and their net rate per kilometer. We want net rate per mile. So they're making $1.14 a mile after their fuel. That's really, really quite good, I think. And to end up a run like that for going, where are we going here? Basically about 2,000 miles. They can do that in probably 3 days, make $1,500, and then come back, do the same thing. So they're going to be making like $3,000 a week, which is, pretty good money. And or actually, we're going to see here, it's a little more than that. So let's go back here and look at their statement. So we did these 2 fictitious loads, but they're based on real numbers, right? They're not made up in the sense that they're not, they are realistic, okay? So we came back, or we went out to Los Angeles, and that was the load we were just looking at here. And then we came from Los Angeles and we went down to Florida, all right? And now you can see that going down to Florida, we made quite a bit more money, because getting out of Florida can be a bit of a pain. So getting, not finding loads is not a pain, it's just the rate. So you want to get the driver basically back to Atlanta. So what I'm getting at, or back to Georgia, somewhere like that. So a little short run from, South Florida, up through Florida, basically just to cover expenses, maybe, obviously make a little money on it, and then get them back to where they can make good money again. So the gross load pay was just over $7,000. They rented a trailer from us, so that gets deducted from the load. The insurance for that period was $225, and their fuel costs for doing all this was $3,000. Like I said, that's quite high. I think it could have been done for quite a bit less, but I did that just because I want to show you, that there's money in this. So just imagine this was, $2,000, so we'd have an extra $1,000 down here. This owner-operator, for basically a week's worth of work, is going to make, like, say, $4,000 to $5,000, which is smoking money, right? It's over $100,000 a year, okay? And as far as the company is concerned, let's take a look down here. We are going to make basically 31 cents a mile, and our company brought in a total net profit of about $1,000, 1,200 bucks. Okay, and that's for a desk job. Now, it's not as sexy as these numbers, but remember, this guy's doing all of the work. I mean, we're doing quite a bit of work too. There's a lot of, phone calling. You're constantly on the phone. I don't want to make this sound like it's, you're sitting on the beach doing this. There's a lot of stress. Delivery times get moved. You're constantly in contact with the driver. It can be quite a headache. Now, all loads don't go like that. Some of them are pretty easy. But remember too, as you grow, you're going to have multiple trucks you're dealing with. So it can get quite tense, but it is nice, rewarding work. So let's take a look now. This is owner-operator. Let's go back and let's take a look at a company driver. So I'll grab a company driver here, Bill Burr, a comedian. Don't know if any of you are fans of his, but I just made up some stuff. So here we're looking at a different story. So pay to bill, that's the guy's name, right, is going to be this. Okay, and this, so you can see that even a company driver is going to make really good money, right? They're going to be making like $2,000 for a week's worth of work, and you could probably get this. I mean, there's going to be deductions on this too. Remember that. So it's not going to be this in their pocket, right? You want to get medical insurance, all that kind of stuff, but they're still making really good money. Okay, and that's at 45 cents a mile. You may decide to pay your your operator 40 cents a mile or 38 cents a mile. Okay, it's up to you and your company. Again, I just put this together quickly just to show you some high numbers, right? And if we take a look now at what the company makes, so after our fuel, I did the same fuel. I took out the total driver pay. And so again, if we save some money on fuel here, we would have been looking at, $4,500. Now, we got to keep in mind that we got to pay our truck lease, our trailer rental and stuff like that, but we can get a truck lease for about $1,500 a month, let's say. And then a trailer is going to cost us, say, $500 a month. So we're looking at $2,000. So in our first week, we've already covered all of our expenses. And if we get a full service lease, then we don't have to worry about tires or anything like that. We just got to worry about regular maintenance and stuff like that. So as far as if the truck breaks down, anything like that, it's all covered by the leasing company. There's some comparisons to owner-operator versus company driver, and it's really up to you how you want to go. If you just want to have owner-operators, like for example, Landstar, a big company, they just work with owner-operators. I don't believe they own any of their own trucks. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm pretty sure that's their business model. And there's probably others out there just the same. They don't actually own any assets, but I do believe they own their own trailers. Something like that, but I don't know. And again, let's see here. Where am I? There. So in this PowerPoint, steve@chesnowitz.com, if you have an interest in learning a little bit more, talking about if you have any questions, if you're looking to maybe do some kind of a partnership, if you need help, guidance, whatever. Like I said, guys, I'm not looking to, make any money. I don't have like a course like, oh, if you buy my full trucking course, it's nothing like that. I'm not looking to sell you anything. I'm just looking to help out. And like I said, maybe there's some people out there who would be looking to do something as well, because I'm kind of looking to get out of what I'm doing currently and start something fresh. And I do have a lot of experience in this from the logistics of it, but also from a technical standpoint as well, of building applications and things like that. So I'm pretty well versed in a lot of areas here in this industry. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon.